School violence prevention is a priority of the Baltimore City Public School System. We're going to examine some of the positive activities within and around our schools that are helping to create and maintain safe learning environments. Up next in this edition of Parent Connection. Hello, I'm Vanessa Pyatt. Our schools must be safe and supportive environments for our students to learn. In recent weeks, there have been incidents in our schools which have received widespread media attention. The Baltimore City Public School System takes any disruption of the learning environment very seriously and continues to respond with positive and proactive measures. Dr. Andres Alonso, CEO of Baltimore City Public Schools, believes creating safe learning environments is a partnership between the school system and the community. He recently put out a call to action requesting community volunteers to help monitor local schools. Joining me to tell us more about this and other community initiatives is Laverne Nicholson Sykes, Director of Family and Community Engagement for Baltimore City Public Schools, and Greg Ford, a BCPSS staffer, but also a volunteer at one of our local schools. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Laverne, let's start the discussion with the issue of violence prevention. Safe learning environments have always been a priority of the school system. What types of programs are already in effect promoting violence prevention?
Well, first of all, there's an Office of Safe Schools. And that office has developed a comprehensive safety plan that is ready to be implemented, and it calls for stakeholders to be involved to support the efforts to make sure that our schools are safe environments. The volunteer initiative was another response to the outcry of our community members to want to do something to help support our young people and to promote positive school climates.
Now, Laverne, I know that you have been an educator as well as an administrator in the school district. In your opinion, do you feel that the activity in terms of the violence in and around our schools is really a reflection of what's happening in our communities?
Absolutely. We as a school system have our young people more hours than anyone else other than the home. So what happens in the schools is a reflection of what they do outside of the schools. But I want to emphasize that the first line of responsibility is a parent and a family and the home. And that line of responsibility is to be an advocate for that child that comes from the home. And parents and family members might not know how they can support their children or what things to do. So we encourage parents to become engaged parents, family members to become engaged family members, so that we can begin to support our young people at an early age, and even those that are at older ages, so that we can give them the things that they need in order to know how to be a positive member of society.
Now, Laverne, if you were to listen and view all of the reports about the incidents of violence in our schools, one might get the impression that there really is no action being taken to address the issue at hand. Student on student, teacher, student, whatever. What is the process for handling an incident of violence in our schools, whether it's an assault or a theft or trespassing? Are there procedures in place to address that issue when it comes up?
There are, and violence is not new. I think that we as a community have responded to what we saw, the video that we saw on that was on the internet. We are no different than other cities. We have been addressing the issues of safety for some time, and the things we want to make sure people know about are the discipline code. Every student is expected to abide by the rules of the school system, and those rules are made clear to every parent at the beginning of the school year in the Parent Information Guide. We have a behavior code, a disruption code that clearly outlines what is supposed to happen if a child is disruptive to the learning environment. There are things in place to protect employees, teachers and other staff members in terms of how they interact with students. So there are guidelines that are in place, and as a result of we as a society witnessing the ills that spill over into our school system, we are revising and highlighting and making sure that people are aware of those codes, those rules, and who's responsible for what and how to respond to violence.
So there are swift and severe consequences, basically, for any incident that seeks to disrupt the learning environment. And so that is in place for principals, teachers, administrators, students, and parents to know, to be familiar with, and to take the appropriate action as required.
Absolutely.
Okay, now I know that there are a number of activities and programs that your office has put in place to help promote a safe, civil, orderly learning environment and to combat school violence. And the call to volunteer is one of those activities that your office has taken responsibility for. Tell us about that program.
The volunteer initiative volunteering is something that has always been advocated. It's one of the key roles of parent engagement, community engagement, and we've always encouraged people to volunteer. But as a result of the witnessing of the violence through the media, we have stepped up our call for volunteers. So under Dr. Alonzo's directive and the recently appointed Executive Director, Michael Sarbanes, we put out a call for 500 volunteers so that we can channel their energy. What we saw was an outpouring of emotion from the witnessing of these violent acts and people wanting to know, what can I do to make a difference in the lives of young people and to support our school community.
Now, what are the requirements? Is there a screening process? How do you bring a volunteer on board?
Volunteers can, and I guess I can tell you how they can volunteer. There are several ways. You can come to 200 East North Avenue and fill out a volunteer form and receive some background information at that time. Or you can go online and to the Baltimore City Schools.org website and click on, there'll be a flag that says volunteer, and or you can call the office at 410-545-1870 and give your name and information, and someone can enter it into the database for you. So those are the ways you can get logged in to being a volunteer. Then within a week or two, you will be invited to have a criminal background check. All volunteers must have a criminal background check, and we will pay for that. It's done through Baltimore City Schools Pre-Employment Office. So once that is done and the person is cleared in terms of being a person who is able to work with our young people according to the guidelines for criminal background checks, then you will receive an orientation and be assigned to a school based on your preference and or need. So.
Now, that leads me to the question of who can volunteer, which you really partially answered for me. But when you speak about background checks, if something were to show up in an individual's criminal background check, would that automatically eliminate them from being considered as a volunteer?
Not automatically. There are certain crimes that or charges that do not keep a person from being a volunteer. Of course, sexual abuse and I want to say more severe crimes would limit a person's ability to be able to volunteer. Okay. Because the safety of our children, our young people, is #1 priority. But anyone 18 years or older can volunteer. Okay. Don't worry about if you got picked up for shoplifting when you were in college, or had some minor traffic violations. But we welcome the opportunity for people to want to volunteer in our schools.
And what type of training is involved?
We give volunteers an orientation on Baltimore City Public School System and what the expectations are, what the roles and responsibilities will be generally for any volunteer. And then when we direct them to the school will be responsible for assigning them duties at the school level and for giving them another level of training in terms of procedures and processes and expectations at the school level.
Okay. Now, Greg, you're a graduate of Baltimore City Public Schools. We were speaking earlier, and you said you went to Mount Royal Elementary Middle, and then Northwestern High School.
Yes.
So you are also a BCPSS staff member.
Yes.
So you've seen both sides.
Yes.
What prompted you to respond to the call to volunteer?
Well, I think that the call was an awesome opportunity for the community to become more involved in the learning process. I think that if we look at the things that we see in the media, it may mislead us, but on a community level, it's more important that we deal with solutions. And for me, as a lifelong resident of the city and a graduate of the school system, I wanted to make sure that I stepped up and was a part of the solution.
Now, what are you most interested in? I mean, once you begin volunteering, what types of activities would you like to be involved in?
I would like to offer mentoring services. Honestly, I'm prepared to do anything. I'll clean up. I'll clean the schools. I'll do whatever I can to help.
Now, Laverne, Greg works full-time. So is there a specific time frame when an individual can volunteer? Does it have to be every day? Can it be once a week? Are Saturdays and Sundays also part of that mix? Can you?
We will receive people's desire to volunteer and will match them with an opportunity. So there are after-school programs that people who work a normal work day could go to when they finish their work day. Many parents have after-school needs, and children are in, our young people are in after-school programs. We have initiatives that will happen on weekends, such as cleanup, as Greg mentioned. It could be painting, it could be a one-time opportunity for special initiatives. So there are many initiatives or many ways that people's time can be channeled, and whatever time they have, we will find a match.
Now, have we reached the goal of 500 volunteers?
If we haven't reached the goal, we are close to it. Okay. We are at about 400 some last count, so we actually could be 500. And there are levels of volunteering. Some people have come to us and said, I have a mentoring program, or I want to mentor. And those people who want to mentor, we will channel them to a mentoring program that can actually provide a more intense layer of training, because then we're talking about one-on-one opportunities with young people, so that that person has someone in their lives who is giving them some support that they might not otherwise have.
Okay, now you gave us some very good contact information earlier on in the interview. I'd just like to put that number and the website address out again for those who may have missed it the first time around. So would you repeat that information for us?
Our website is baltimoreCitySchools.org. Okay. So you can go on the web. Okay. Our phone number for the Office of Family and Community Engagement is 410-545-1870. And I would also like to add that you asked about other programs. We really, as a system, have moved under the direction of Dr. Alonso and are moving in the direction of reaching out and connecting. Our outreach to community members and family, that includes family members, is improving, so that we are outlining how we do better outreach, how we connect to advocate groups that already have something in place to support our young people, but might not be connected to the school system in a way that they want to be. So we are all about establishing relationships so that every young person has a parent or family member who is an advocate for them, that that person knows how to be an advocate for them, that they know what activities they can be engaged in order to be an advocate for that child. We are also moving in the direction of realizing that every child might not have a parent or a family member who can step to the plate and be engaged. And in those circumstances, we want to connect and build relationships with community members so that community people step up and offer a young person the opportunity to have an advocate for them, because every child needs to have an advocate. Every young person needs and deserves that.
Now, Greg, what would you say to your contemporaries who might be reluctant to step up to the plate and volunteer, as Laverne just said? What would your message be to them if they were watching this show to convince them to actually sign up and volunteer and advocate for a kid at school, or just be part of the school fabric?
I would say that this whole experience is something that does not come along every day. Dr. Alonso has given us an awesome opportunity, and as community members, is our obligation to step up and to help our children.
Laverne Nicholson Sykes, Greg Ford, I want to thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you so much for the information you shared. It's been very helpful and very informative. When we return, I'll talk with two more individuals who have answered the call to volunteerism. We'll be right back after this.
Journeys is sponsored by the Reginald F. Lewis Museum of Maryland African American History and Culture.
Benjamin Banneker was the son of an African from Guinea and a free African-American woman of mixed ancestry. He was born free in 1731 on a 100-acre farm in Baltimore County. Banneker exemplified the African traditions of contemplation and invention, as well as his heirs' faith in reason and scientific inquiry. At age 22, with only a borrowed pocket watch for an example, he built a wooden clock that kept accurate time for 50 years. In his late 50s, he taught himself astronomy. He was the first African-American man of science and the first of many black intellectuals to defend his people against intellectual racism. I'm Robin Aggersat, taking the journey.
The Reginald F. Lewis Museum Partners in Education. Take the journey.
Welcome back to Parent Connection. We're examining the challenges of maintaining safe learning environments for our students, faculty, and parents. All of them have vested interests in our school community. Recently, there have been numerous incidents of violence in our schools reported in the media. The school system takes these disruptions in the learning environment very seriously, and Dr. Andres Alonso called for a community partnership to help combat violence in city schools. He asked for the community to volunteer to take an active approach in maintaining and preserving safe learning environments in our schools. Two people who answered the call to volunteer are Emma Combat, a student at UMBC, currently interning at the Department of Homeland Security, and G.I. Johnson, born and raised in Baltimore City, and his grandchildren attend Baltimore City Public Schools. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Please tell us how it is that you heard and then came to volunteer in Baltimore City schools.
Well,
Mr. Johnson?
You know, listening at the TV one evening, and I happened to see the new superintendent appealing to communities to help volunteer, and he gave out a number, 500 or more, to come in and to participate in the school systems. I go back a little bit during the day when we sort of had open opportunities for parents to come into the school system and to observe us and see what we were doing and correct us and things of that nature. And during a period of time, we stopped. And I think what we're going through today is some of or part of the reasons that when we no longer was a part of the system, we were more or less on the outside where we should have remained on the inside.
So you also believe that schools are part of the fabric of the community?
No doubt about it, absolutely. We experienced two things during that time. We experienced, as well as going in, we went in, pulled the shades down and let the community just be on its own. Then a few years later, we decided to come outside and we found out that there was a problem out there that we should have attended to before we went in. So this is a great opportunity, and I can appreciate when I heard the superintendent make that statement and listening to the mayor's office with Mayor Dixon, who's also appealing to the general public to do the same thing in the community. So their vision sort of connects there.
Ms. Combat, tell us how you came to become a volunteer with Baltimore City Schools.
I actually read a news article in the Baltimore Sun, and at the end of the article they were looking for volunteers, and I've actually done previous volunteer work for the 4-H Character Club, and so I wanted to get back into that because I've always said I wanted to go back and do some mentoring, and I thought this was a great opportunity to give back to the community, even though I don't actually live in a Baltimore City area, but I do attend school nearby, and I think it's imperative to have, I guess, young people also volunteer and I guess show the kids in the middle school and high schools, you know, that it's kind of like an experience to show them maybe what college life is like, or just give them that kind of background. Yeah.
But I would imagine, being a full-time student and an intern at the Department of Homeland Security, that you really don't have a lot of extra time or spare time to do something like this. What's your motivation?
Just giving back to the community, and I think that's imperative for everyone to do so. So I think I suggest everyone do it.
Now, I understand that you have already been assigned to a school, so
Yes.
where will you be volunteering, and what types of activities do you expect to be involved in?
I'll be volunteering at Monrovia Elementary.
Moravia?
Yes, but I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing at the moment since I'm still in classes right now, so whenever I get out of classes, then I can probably do more at the time.
Now, give me some reaction to the application process, the screening process. What was your experience like?
The screening process and the training so far is it's just a good feeling that I got once going in on North Avenue and meeting the persons or the people who was in charge there. You know, the welcome mat was poured out to us, and it wasn't something that most of us in my age bracket it would be new to, but it was sort of rewarding for us to go back to the way I was raised. I don't have a problem saying good evening to you. I don't have a problem saying thank you. I don't have a problem opening the door for you, things of that nature. And those things were sort of missing in the system. And I think for us, me as a male, black male, to come in and to just be visible there and just to show the young people as well as the school administrators that we all are one, we all here for the same reasons, to protect one another and to help any way that we can.
Ms. Combat, what was your experience going through the training process?
I thought the screening and training process was very accommodating, actually. They worked with you if you couldn't make it to the allotted time that they had. They worked with you, and actually the screening process was easier than I initially thought. You know, I went through a screening process with the Department of Homeland Security, and that was different. But this screening process was actually very easy, and it took no time at all. So I think that's very it works well because it accommodates every person, and they're really trying to get people into volunteer, so they're willing to work with you.
We are asking the entire communities, and I certainly preach it to everybody that I know and all the organizations that I'm affiliated with. I tell them that, hey, this is our time. This is the time for us to go in and make sure that I don't have to be a parent to a child in that particular school, But when they have plays, different things let's be there to applaud them, show them that, you know, and because they are our future. And so I really appreciate, I really do, that I have the opportunity to go in and to give back, because I've been doing this for quite a while as far as volunteering to help young people.
Ms. Combat, do you have a preference for age, elementary, middle, or high school student?
I would definitely like some to mentor a child in maybe elementary or middle school, just because I feel as if I look like a high schooler myself. So maybe I'll be more of a friend if I were connected to a high schooler. But I think I would have more influence, I guess, over someone that's a little younger, since I do still look like a high schooler myself.
Mr. Johnson, let me ask you this question as former president of the local branch of the NAACP, and the belief that schools really are a reflection of our community. Do you buy into that? And if so, do you really think that 500 volunteers can affect a change in our schools?
I definitely believe that 500, but we need more. We definitely need more. One of the things, this is a start. And of course we have to make a start. If we don't, then we do nothing. What I hear and what we're asked to do, I don't think that anybody should give an excuse or make an excuse not to be able to do it. Because I see it as being just being visible in the school. I don't have to no more than say good morning to a student or good afternoon to a student. I don't have to get involved in anything that someone else is trained to do. Me as a parent, my job would be, or just a visitor in that school, or just a concerned volunteer in that school, would be just to be there. And I think we can help a lot of kids who need visibility of adults or parents in the schools.
All the media attention given to the incidents of violence in schools goes away, and everything settles down, and we look forward to the excitement of a brand new school year with 82,000 kids coming to enjoy another year of learning. Do you think we can count on the volunteers to be there after the cameras leave and after the attention goes away and the community is focused on something else? How do we keep that momentum going?
I think the volunteering thing, it starts with one person. So that person is going to mention to another person, and that person is going to mention to another person, and I think that's how you keep it going. And once I think you start, you won't be able to stop, because I think you get a sense of fulfillment from that. So I think people will actually, you know, it'll be a dominoes effect, hopefully.
Okay.
Yeah, and you know, I think the media does us a disservice. The events that happen, it seemed like that we jump to a conclusion, or we jump to where it's this person's fault versus that person's fault. And I think it should give the system a chance to work, to investigate, to find out really what happened or what's going on. One of the things that I noticed in Baltimore is attitude. We have an attitude problem here that I think the volunteers will sort of help clear it up.
Well, that's certainly going to be a beginning, and certainly something that we hope to see become a regular part of the classroom environment in every Baltimore City school. And it has been my privilege to have the opportunity to interview both of you. Mr. Johnson, knowing of your reputation in this city as a strong leader for the Baltimore community. And Emma, I certainly wish you the best in your endeavors and wish you a successful experience in volunteering in Baltimore City Schools. Thank you both for being here today.
Thank you.
Local schools are part of the greater community, and in many instances reflect the investments of time and energy of that community. Safe learning and work environments are a fundamental commitment of the Baltimore City Public School System. Any allegation of an assault or physical altercation results in an internal investigation and proper legal action. However, violence prevention through community partnerships fosters long-term deterrence to school violence. Together, we can create and maintain safe learning environments throughout the Baltimore City Public School System. I would like to thank you, my guests, for their commitment to public safety. For Parent Connection, I'm Vanessa Pyatt.